Hello everybody, this will be the first in a series of 4 coding videos that cover Scratch and coding. This will be the very first program that we will make. If you have no experience programming or using Scratch, that is totally fine. You are in the right spot and we will learn to do cool stuff. For this program, we will learn to make a quick chase game where there is a sprite chasing another sprite while earning points each time you do so. Let's get started. Go on and launch Scratch by visiting scratch.mit.edu. If you do not have an account, I recommend making an account so that way you can save your projects and continue to edit them in the future and also share your projects to the public. To create an account, go to the upper right corner where it says join, and then you will create a username and also a password and answer a couple of questions. Once you created your own account, you will go to the upper left where it says create, and this will load the editor, or what I like to call the canvas, where we create the game. So in the middle, that's where we drag the code blocks. On the left, those are the code blocks. There's different categories. There's motion, there's looks, sound, events, etc. And I encourage you to pause this video and explore those categories on your own by just clicking on them and dragging them to the canvas. For this example that I'm doing, I am saying when I press the green flag, which is start, the cat will move 10 steps forward. I like to think of it as separate blocks that you piece together to control what happens on the right side, which I would like to call as a window. And once you are done exploring, then you can delete those code blocks by right-clicking and selecting delete block. And let's start with a clear canvas. So once you have cleared the canvas and also deleted the character, then we're gonna get started by going on the lower right side and clicking choose a backdrop, and here you will have a choice to select any backdrop of your choice. There's different themes. There's fantasy, music, sports. Outdoors, indoors, space, underwater, and patterns. I'm going to select space as my backdrop. And then we're going to choose a character by going to the lower right and icon that says choose a sprite. And like the backdrops, there are different themes or characters, such as animals, people, fantasy, dance, music, food, fashion, and letters. I'm going to choose a puppy named Dot for my character. And you can drag the character by just clicking on it and holding it and dragging it anywhere you would like on your backdrop. You can also resize your character by going on the lower bottom. You can also rename your character so that once you have multiple characters, you can keep. Before we get started, I would like to explain the coordinate system, where we have the x-axis and the y-axis. And this will come in handy once we want to control the the up and down keys, and also the left and the right keys. So if you want to control left and right arrow keys, we will have to focus on the x-axis, which I would like to think of it as if you want to go to the left, you go to the negative side. If you want to go to the right, you go to the positive side. Same as the y-axis. If you want to go to down, you have to go to the negative side. And if you want to go up, you go to the positive side. Now coming back to Scratch, we will get started with the left and the right arrow keys. I'm going to go to Events. And I'm going to drag when space key is pressed, but instead of space, I'm going to go to the right arrow. Then I'm also going to go to motion and select change X by 10. Because remember, we're focusing on the x-axis for the right and left arrow keys. As you can see, when you click on the code box, it goes to the, it moves the character to the right side. And also we're going to want to do it for the left side as well. So I'm going to drag again the when the space key is pressed and change it to the left arrow. And I'm going to grab change X by 10. Instead of positive 10, I'm just going to make it negative 10. That way it can go on the left side when we press the left arrow key. And now we're going to do the same thing, but for the y-axis, for the up and down arrow keys. So select the same event code block and click up arrow. But this time we're going to do change Y by 10. So that one is for the up, as you can see. And now we need the down arrow key. And change that to down arrow. Change Y by 10. And we're going to make that a negative 10 so it can go down. Right here, and I'm testing out if the code works. So all my arrow keys are working perfectly fine. You can also change it if you want your character to move faster, you can increase the number, but I like it 10. Okay, and then once we're done with that, we're gonna choose another character. So go to the same lower right bottom to choose a sprite. And I'm going to choose a donut. As you can see, the characters have their own canvas where we can add the code blocks. Once clicking on the donut, we want the donut to glide at a random position every time we start the game. So we have to go to events because every time we start the game, we want this to happen. When the flag is clicked, we want the donut or the sprite to move randomly. So we want this action to be forever. And then we're going to go to motion because we want it to glide. So glide 1 second to random position. And let's press play to see if the code works. And yes, it does. Okay, so I'm going to put stop. And of course, we can change the number, the second. So if you increase the second, it's going to be, decrease the number of seconds, it's going to be slower. And if you decrease it, it's going to be extremely fast, like so. I did -1, and yeah, that's too fast. That would be an extremely hard game. So I'm just going to go with 0.5. So half a second. So now that we have that done, I'm going to click on the dog sprite. If the dog sprite touches the other sprite, I want it to play a sound. So in order to do that is by going to events. When we press play, we want this action to be forever. And then we're going to do the if statement, essentially saying if the dog is touching the donut, then we want it to play a sound. So now we're going to go with sensing. So there, the first one, touching, and I'm going to change it to donut. Okay, so if the dog is touching the donut, then we want the dog to bark. So play sound, bark until done. So I'm going to press play. And now you can see that every time the dog catches the donut, it barks. Okay, and for the next step, I actually want to create a variable which is going to keep score of the game. So every time the dog touches the donut, we count 1 to the score. So we're going to go to make variable, and I'm going to name the variable score for all sprites and click OK. So there is our new variable called score. So under variables, then we're going to drag change my variable by 1, and we're going to drag it in the same place where it says if the dog is touching the donut, then we want the dog to bark, and also change the score by 1. So let's press play, and you can see that the score is increasing by 1. Okay. Okay, so then now that we have a score, I want to code that every time we restart the game or press stop, then I want the code to be set to 0. So I'm going to go under events, click every time we start, then go under variables, and it says select set variable, and then I'm going to change it to score to 0. As you can see, it sets it to 0 every time we press stop. And that is the end of our coding game, and you can stop here. If you would like to do more, I do have other activities where you can edit your coding game, so you can change the size of your characters, or change the color every time they touch the donut, or every time you use the right arrow keys. I'll show you that right now. Anytime you want to change the looks of your characters or the background, go under the category looks. You can even switch your costume, and you can also go to the costume tab where you can select the costume of your character, but I'm going to go with the first one. And just to show as an example, I'm saying when we start, I want to change my dog costume to .d. And you'll see that in a bit what that does. And I'm also changing color effect by 25 every time I press the right arrow key. So yet again, I invite you to play around with looks, to change up your video game. And you can see that every time I press the right arrow key, it changes the color of my character. And again, to delete any code blocks that you don't want, you can just right click and delete the code block. And that's it for this video. So thank you for joining me for this coding program, and I will see you the next time. And remember, we will have a new coding video every week for the month of June. So thank you so much. Have a great day.